Welcome to Inside Marketing with MarketSurge, your front row seat to the boldest ideas and smartest strategies in the marketing game. Your host is Reed Hansen, Chief Growth Officer at MarketSurge.
Hello and welcome back to Inside Marketing with MarketSurge. I'm your host, Reed Hansen. If you've ever built something great and then heard crickets when you launched, it's not just you. Today's guest has helped over 250 apps avoid that exact nightmare. Jonathan Maxim is the founder of Viral App Launch, and he specializes in turning early-stage apps into real traction machines, helping founders hit that critical 10,000 user mark and unlock investor conversations. He's worked with companies like TikTok and HeyPal, scaling users into the hundreds of thousands and even millions in record time. So today we're diving into what actually works in app growth, what's complete nonsense, and how to go from we've built something cool to we're scaling something serious. Welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Well, this is a special treat. I think could really benefit from your knowledge. Now, you've helped launch hundreds of apps, 250 at least. What is the first mistake you would say you see founders making before they even launch their app?
I think a lot of people don't step back and take a look at the broader picture because let's just say you're Cal.ai, you're using that case study where this app went mega viral, making close to $1 million a month, gets acquired. That's your benchmark for success. So then you go and post on Reddit and you think, I want to go viral. And hey, maybe you get 1,000, 10,000 users. My first app, we posted it on Twitter and went viral one time. We got 14,000 downloads overnight. Sounds awesome. But my app didn't have monetization built in. I didn't make any money on those users. And I hadn't thought about the onboarding experience to teach people how to use the app. So the activation rate was only about 10 to 20% of those users. And so essentially it was wasteful. I ended up with a handful of quality users. But if I had I'd taken a look at the broader picture and thought about, okay, what happens after they download the app? And then how do I teach them how to use it? How do I activate them? How do I monetize them, right? So that this business can sustain itself and go on. And so I try to take this broader perspective. And I think a lot of founders are thinking, I just got to get users on this platform. And I'm like, getting users isn't the whole story. That's part of the story and it's a must, but also how does your app usher a white glove experience for those users? And so that's something I'm really passionate about and happy to dig into it more. But an app that goes viral and makes zero money is effectively useless, right? It's like somebody who's a mega influencer who can't pay their bills, right? What good is it?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I think we've seen a lot of tech companies start offering free access to their tool, like a lot of the social media platforms before they monetize. And so I think I would assume a lot of founders assume that's the path, but, help me correct that assumption. What generally is a good way to go from launch to monetization?
Let me lay out what I think and my perspective, from observing the data, try to keep my opinion out of it, just looking at the trends that I've seen over the years of launching hundreds of apps. You got to think about 5 core categories of the product of the company. The product itself, does it do what it's supposed to do? Does it solve a clear problem? The marketing, do we identify the right ideal customer profile? Is that user profitable to acquire? And then 3 is monetization. How do we maximize the LTV of that user? 4 is virality, which is getting people to share, giving them incentives to share. And then 5 is capital raising and monetization of the actual company itself. All those things have to be factored into consideration for this to work because, as I mentioned earlier, if you have an app that goes viral, but 80% of your users are dropping off during onboarding, what good is that? You have to take all these things into consideration to make it a real business and not just some app that was built in a weekend. And maybe it's an awesome app and serves a vital need for people, but it has to have a business model associated with it, especially for those bootstrappers. But even investors, they're not investing in apps that have zero revenue these days. That thing is like a decade ago. So
Interesting. So, you mentioned in some writing that 10,000 users is a key milestone for an app. Tell me why that is such a critical number and what sort of things change for the trajectory of the app when you hit that.
Let me back up to the pre-10,000 user mark because
please.
That's the important part is knowing what you're getting yourself into as a founder. What is it going to take? What is it going to cost? How much effort and time is it going to take for me to get to a point where this is investable? That's the first question we should answer. And depending on how they execute, it could cost anywhere from 10 to 50K, depending, some spend 100K getting there. A lot of investor-backed apps, you want to do everything in the most 5-star fashion, let's say.
Mhm.
So know what you're getting into because it's going to require investment upfront, just like any other business, right? Services businesses require investment upfront. You got to build a website, marketing system, a sales pipeline. It's no different, right?
Mhm.
And then why do we do 10,000 users? This is, first of all, tons of investors told me that when I was pitching. And I founded 2 apps myself that I went out and did the whole fundraising journey with. So most investors are asking for 10,000 users, but the question is, why do they want 10,000 users? And what I've come to deduce is that is statistically significant, right? We have 10,000 people on the platform, maybe 5,000 of them are registered active users, 3,000 of them have completed their first action in the app, 300 of them have started a free trial, and 150 are paid, right? So at all those different stages of the funnel, you got over 100 units, AKA some semblance of statistical significance, implying that if this works at a small scale, it'll work at a large scale. And that's what makes it investable. If the model's attractive when they have 10,000 users, then you add 2 zeros to that, everything should grow relatively. And so that's really the math that investors are looking for to justify this is worth investing in. That's also my own personal benchmark for investing. When startups come to me and say, hey, can you help me get to 10,000 users? I say, no, that's on you because you're the founder who needs to validate your product and market and make sure it's a real business. I'm not going to write a check unless I'm confident that your model acquires customers profitably, retains them, has a good product experience, not scamming people out of their money, things like that. And so that's my personal benchmark, a lot of other investors' benchmarks. And again, in the era of easy, when you can make an app in a weekend, when you can make a month of content in 30 seconds, there's very little sacrifice required on the part of the founder. But if you look at the founders who are the most successful, it's the ones who burn the boats, right? They threw shit to the wind. They went all in. And one of my friends in San Francisco, right? Take this case study, for example. Failed 3 startups. Made his first one in college when we were in school together. Made another one, did okay, still shut down. Made another one later in his career. He worked in investment banking and tech. So he was deep in the tech space in San Francisco. Super qualified, super smart guy, 3 failed startups. He started a new one about 3 years ago. After he had his first baby, had another baby in the process while he was starting this other startup. And he was in the tunnel in the darkness literally for 2 years. Now this company, and I was worried about his well-being and safety and his marriage and things like that, because all those come into question when we're, at such a high level of exposure. They raised, I want to say 68 million a couple months ago. Wow. Mega successful. But he spent effectively all of his dry powder, his cash on hand, and he went into the darkness. He went into the deficit to get that company successful. So that's the kind of dedication that it requires to become what most people are glamorizing as a successful founder. And when you remove all of those obstructions and you make it so easy that you can make an app in a weekend, there's so little commitment. It's like when you offer something to somebody for free and they don't use it because they got it for free. But if they paid $2,000 for it, damn, they're going to use it. So the sacrifice is important. And this is the psychological part that's hard for a lot of people to overcome these days. Is it's so easy to start a business. It's also so easy to change directions, to cancel the business, to throw in the towel. Because again, you didn't put $100,000 into this, so you don't have $100,000 worth of conviction. And so that's the tough part these days, is having that level of discipline, conviction, execution, and also vision to see beyond what's the next step. And just that this isn't a 3-month thing, right? This is like marriage, not a one-night stand. And so I just wish that more founders took a long-term outlook on it, because I'll see a lot of founders launch, get to 1,000, 2,000 users. Another case study we have going on, raised $1 million, launched the app, got about 2,000 users, and they're not making a lot of money with the app. Guess what? In the industry that they're in, I don't want to reveal it because,
Sure,
it's an active campaign and stuff, but the conversion rate average is like 3%. So when you got 2,000 users, you're getting 60 purchases and average order value like $10, $20. Obviously, this thing's not going to be profitable. But if you get big market dominance and you get millions of users, which is why companies raise capital so they can do a big land grab like that, the business model becomes super attractive, because then the snowball starts to accumulate, customers repurchase, average order value increases. So he just has to get through this ugly, scary phase of the numbers are just really small right now. But he's tempted to pull the plug on it because it doesn't look that attractive at a super small scale. But again, all that matters, in my opinion, is the economics, right? Like, is your conversion rate above average? Is your AOV above average? So is the business by its fundamentals healthy? And again, I don't think this guy knew what he was getting himself into, raising $1 million from friends and family. you really put yourself in a lot of exposure by doing that. And if he goes and pulls the plug, he's worse off. He's better off to just say, fuck it, I'm going to go all in on this and I'm going to go raise more capital till this thing's mega successful. Because it's not about the product that makes the company succeed. It's about the founder. The founder is what makes the company succeed. You saw Instagram when it was new, it was called Bourbon, and it was like a photo filter app. Completely. Right. I think it was even like a check-in app at first or something. The app completely changed shapes. An example, the case study I just gave you, there's other ways to monetize when you hit 100,000 or 1 million users. You don't have to do the core business model. You can monetize that audience in another way. You could add referral programs and get affiliate revenue. You can, which is, by the way, a very profitable way to grow. You can add premium level services, some kind of white glove services, because you have a captive audience. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's about the founder's willingness to be agile and just keep building, because eventually you'll remove all of the fat on the operation. You'll have a super efficient, muscle dense business that, is a monster and it can't be stopped. But you have to be willing to fight through that darkness. And that darkness can be 3, 6, 12 months, 2 years. In the case of the guy who just raised close to $100 million for his startup, he was in it for 2 years. And he's one of the smartest, most disciplined founders who came in with capital, lives in San Francisco, and it still took him 2 years to get out of the darkness. And by the way, he's still working like 60, 80-hour weeks.
Wow. Well, you've highlighted a lot of ways that each app story is a little bit different. It requires like the learning of actually working on it and attempting to market. Just from like a war story standpoint, like your experience, are there things that just across the board you say, I see people do this all the time, and I think nobody should do this, like in terms of like promoting your app or trying to acquire users?
Well, I think the biggest issue that I see with a lot of new apps is that they will design an app to solve a problem, which is great, right? It should be input, output. You don't want something obscure. Okay, we're building a community or whatever, because that makes it very hard to get profitable. So you build a product that solves a particular problem. But let's just say they enter into the fitness space, right? The average app in the fitness space commands like 5, 10, maybe $20 a month in revenue, B2C, right? Business to consumer. Those B2C customers have a high churn rate, right? They're hard to please. This isn't a business need that they're fulfilling. So then you have a churn problem in that particular model, and revenue is low, right? Now, take that same app that was just a general fitness app for anybody and say, I'm just going to target CEOs who do over $10 million in revenue, who are trying to find time to spend with their family. They're trying to get into better shape. They're trying to become more mindful. And then you niche down into that audience, and now you can charge $1,000 a month for that same app that's commanding $10 a month at broad market. So even though your app might seem like it's in a niche of fitness, you have to find a sub niche that's actually profitable. Same thing with habits apps. Like I've launched habits apps before, and literally they'll command like $5, $10 a month for helping you stay on habit. But if you have a high ticket closer who, if he could improve his daily energy schedule and execution by just 10%, he might make $10,000 more that month. And so now you can charge him $100 a month versus $10 a month. You got to find the sub niche with your app, and that requires split testing. You have to, about this, you're a marketer yourself. You got to put 10 hooks out into the market, see which ones resonate. And then let's just say hook 1 and 3 are the winners, hook messages, so headlines that are going to capture attention. And then we look at age, gender, location of those people. And also what was in the hook. Is it lose weight, or is it build muscle, or is it your temperament or whatever? Then you start to understand the pain point that it's solving for that audience. And in the case of that fitness app that I'm thinking of, his real best audience is males over 50, right? So then you start building a fitness app for males over 50, and you make that experience better and better for that particular audience. Let's just say those dudes travel for work a lot. Okay, boom, let's give them a quick workout they can do at the airport. Let's give them a meditation they can do on the plane. You see what I'm saying? So then you start creating a more white glove experience for that customer who actually has buying power. And then it's not just about creating an experience around that user. It's also about like that user feeling like it's personalized and it's adding value to their life, right? Like you could, again, when you're talking about high leverage things like a business owner, if he improves his daily performance, that's a massive impact on thousands of employees that he has, et cetera. So it's a point of leverage, if you will.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that caught my eye is you've worked with TikTok, and TikTok in particular was even by the standards of social media, was extremely fast growing and almost like a unicorn in its own way, 4 or 5 years ago, where like we don't necessarily see apps seize that amount of territory so quickly. What do you think they did well that the most startups don't grasp?
Well, let's just be completely honest here, right? They had a lot of money. Okay. When you have a lot of money, you can have market dominance. You can pay for a lot of marketing. When we were marketing TikTok, we were marketing on Instagram, we were marketing on Snapchat, et cetera. And we're taking users straight from their platform to build TikTok a competitor to them. So that's how much money they had. They were funded by the Chinese government. They have a sovereign wealth fund there. So, you're talking, I think they have 80 billion total capital raised, or the $80 billion valuation at the time we were working with them. So it's like being realistic with yourself. If I'm trying to be the next TikTok, I have to match all their factors. I have to have that kind of capital on hand. I have to have an engineering team that's making an algorithm as powerful as that they were doing. By the way, that was all they were focused on when we were working together, making the algorithm so sticky that like people couldn't leave. So they were 99% focused on product, and marketing was just an afterthought to basically test the product and validate it. But when we were working on that campaign, we took the same approach. At the time, we called it tribes. This is before the industry had really matured into what it is, but we tested 100 different tribes, and those were basically influencer profiles: health, wealth, fitness, luxury, fashion, cars, horses, barbers, you name it, 100 different audiences that we tested. And this is how I came up with the methodology that we use today, which is to do that split testing with different audiences. That was it. So we tested 100 different influencer audiences, and we just saw, hey, what had the lowest cost per user acquisition? And in that case is a little bit unique because influencer posting did not get the results. Only about 5% of the influencer stories were reaching their followers, right? So you're not really getting the numbers you need. At the time, we're looking at a 0.3% click-through rate, cost per user acquisition around $100, and our target was $10. So we actually ended up putting a direct messaging software on there that we're logged in all these profiles, and we just systematically shot DMs out to all the followers of those profiles. So just imagine Alex Hormozy shooting you a DM being like, hey, Reed, I just posted a new video. It's going mega viral on this platform called TikTok. Click to check it out. And then we deep link to that video, and boom, an active user. And so that took the conversion rate from 0.3% up to 30%. And that's how we had that massive day where we had 12,000 users. And then the next few days, we got like 25,000 from it. Those cases are a bit unique, but what I would say is unique should be the standard, right? You should be expecting that as a founder, you're gonna have to try crazy stuff, and you're gonna have to fight through the doubt and the fear until you have a breakthrough. Because you've experienced this in business, right? Like the biggest breakthroughs, it's always darkest before the light, right? Like when you think it's all over, then God sends you a message, and then the rest is history, right?
No.
They were just as experimental as the guy with one company or the startup with one founder and a couple contractors helping him. That same level of resourcefulness and grit existed at a company with thousands of employees.
And that's a great level of detail and a lot of great takeaways there. Still fascinating that anything funded by the government could come off as like the coolest, hottest new app. Like that in itself was pretty remarkable. That speaks to the effectiveness of those product managers. Good job.
And marketing, right? Like they had us really pushing hard on doing challenges at the time. If you remember, there was like the elevator challenge and the microwave challenge, these challenges where people like floating up a doorway or turning around in real time. And so we were pushing the narrative in terms of what was cool on TikTok. We were seeding that. And then it would create a trend and then get a bunch of engagement. See what I'm saying? So yeah. If I had known what I know now about how governments work, I don't know if I would have worked on that particular campaign, because it does some stuff that's a little bit in the gray area, in my opinion. But again, at the end of the day, they were putting a stake in the ground saying, this is who we are, and we're going to like create something crazy and see who gets on board. I'm willing to rattle cages and rock the boat and all that.
So if, your ideal prospect comes to you, with the app, they've got 10,000 users, they are all in, they put their full-time efforts and more and all their finances behind it, and they're doing all the things. You take them on to Viral App Launch. What does the first part of the engagement start to look like? What do you do or turn up the dial on user acquisition and more?
First activity we do when we launch an app is do split testing. So we'll put 10 hooks in market. Yeah, we'll see which, usually it's an 80-20. Two of them will be winners, 8 will be losers. And then after that first round of split testing, we can see age, gender, location, and which message they responded to. In the next round of split testing, we'll say, okay, we know that it's males 50 plus into fitness. What kind of pain points do those guys experience? And so then we'll do 10 hooks with different pain points on them, do the next round of split testing to get to more detail of really what is it that these guys are struggling with? Is it finding time? Is it that they're traveling a lot? Or is it that they have to work out when their wife is there or whatever it is? And so we'll do hooks first, and then we do pain points next, and then we do product solutions and benefits in the third round of split testing. And at that point, you got a really clear picture of your avatar. For example, I know my avatar super well who work with us. The bootstrap founder is a millennial like me or you, made an app, funding it himself, right? Mm-hmm. The other avatar that we know is basically the old white guy, right? It's like a dude who's over 50 who worked in some other industry, sold the company, or is cash flowing, raised $1 million, came to us because he doesn't have the technical chops to execute it. He needs somebody who's ground level like us. And so I know those avatars so damn well. Like I'll get on with I'll watch like a sales call recording or something. And if somebody tells me it's a qualified prospect, I know it's an old white guy, right? Then we put them into ads, right? We put dorky old boomers into our ads, right? And it's not a mockery of them. It's just about giving them exactly what they relate and connect to. And so when we're marketing apps, we do the same thing. We're trying to help them create that connection and relevance with what they're seeing. And that's why that 3 rounds of split testing is so critical. And then after that, hey, it's $50 to acquire a customer who gives us $150 over the next 3 months, older male who lives in tier 1 cities. Then you can start to build really personalized marketing around that. And then from there, we'll go to redesign the onboarding around that particular user, the most profitable user. We'll design the retention marketing experience around them, 30 days of email, SMS, and push notification. We'll design the referral program around them, right? Get a workout buddy, get a month free for everybody who joins your pod. You see what I'm saying? So those things all come after. First, it's all about identifying that ideal customer profile.
Okay, fantastic. Well, this is super informative. And I mean, I'd love to spend hours on this, but I would love to refer people your direction. Where can people find you if they would like to work with you or with Viral App Launch? Where are the best places to find you?
Yeah, by the way, I have a bunch of free resources, and I'm not out here trying to hard pitch anybody. I want founders to succeed. And really what that starts with in the beginning is equipping them with knowledge, the outlook of the journey, right? The roadmap of launching an app. So I have an investor playbook. If somebody wants that, they can just DM me playbook on Instagram, or actually, DM me Reed. And that way I'll know it came from you. But it's J Maxim on Instagram. And then on our company profile is at Viral App Launch on it. Or they can head to the viralappalaunch.com website. We have free courses on prepping for launch. We have a bunch of free materials there. Feel free to check that out. But again, my main goal is to equip founders with the knowledge to know what it's going to take to succeed so that they can approach this in the right way, whether that's doing it themselves, whether it's using some of our resources, or whether it's having our team do it for them.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Jonathan. It's great to meet you and learn about, somebody that's really been working with some of the fastest growing apps out there. And so thank you for your time.
My pleasure, man. I appreciate you having me on, and I'd like to make myself a resource to you or to anybody listening. Like at the end of the day, we have a business that is powered by ads and organic, and the business is growing on its own. So for me, we're hosting events now, we're hosting a summit. So we're really trying to immerse the community and just equipping more, especially the vibe coders, because those are the ones who don't have that they haven't gone through the gauntlet, so they don't really know what to expect. Happy to just help them out with those resources, whatever. And if you ever launch an app, you know who to call, okay?
All right, thanks again.
Want to stay ahead of what's actually working in marketing right now? Head over to MarketSurge.io and see how we're helping businesses grow smarter, faster, and louder. That's MarketSurge.io, because your next breakthrough shouldn't be a guess.